If you hate capitalism that much, then why don't you move to Venezuela?
Oh, you messed up, Jordan. I've been waiting for you to slip up and say something dumb on this app.
A lot of people requested I make a response to this video where Eddie vehemently defends dictatorships in Venezuela. And he...
Wait, this guy's literally a fascist, isn't he? 137 IQ weirdo. Literally was making an argument like last weekend when we were looking at his videos about how like democracy doesn't work. But what's up? I don't understand. It's just like, if Venezuela is a dictatorship, okay, well, isn't that kind of what you want? He's like, no, not like that.
And he unironically thinks socialism was a success in Venezuela. Yeah. But honestly, I need to focus on people who will actually be challenging. So this is probably the last video I'll make on Eddie.
Western capitalists like you sucked the oil out of Venezuela for years until that's what their economy was dependent on.
This statement is absolutely nonsensical. How does siphoning the oil out of the country and not making it benefit the country's economy make the economy dependent upon oil? It's also...
Wait, what? What does Ben think that... Wait, I'm so confused. There's no shot Mr. ANCAP over here doesn't think that like building oil refineries in developing nations with like insane contracts that dictate that Western capitalist nations that built those oil refineries can actually take your natural resources for many decades at basically no cost to the Western capitalist nation is not a system of exploitation. You have to recognize that it's exploitative and say that it's just the cost of doing business, right? I can't tell if he's just being serious or not here.
Also just blatantly objectively false. Venezuela's super dependence upon oil clearly came from the socialists, especially once they started all these social programs that were funded by oil money, because these...
Yeah, it's disgusting that Venezuela nationalized its extraction industries, just like Norway did, and then started using that to fucking literally help its own citizens. How disgusting. What they should have done is continue to allow Western capitalist nations to extract the resources and, you know, seize the profits for themselves instead. IQ is going up right now. Norway didn't do that. Norway's extraction industries are nationalized, both oil and even forestry.
Social programs now replace other aspects of the economy.
Norway didn't have to rely on Western help to build oil refineries that they then decided to nationalize and then have the Western capitalist international community decide you can no longer participate in the global marketplace. So I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, whoever the chatter was there that said it's not the case. Government Norway didn't help Venezuela? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there's a difference between Venezuela, which... and Iran, for example, that wanted to do the same thing that Norway has been able to accomplish without outside influence. The difference there, though, is that Norway is a Western nation, and Venezuela and Iran were ripe for exploitation and were being exploited, and therefore that move, albeit democratic, was non-consensual from the point of view of British Petroleum and the American State Department, both in Iran and also in Venezuela.
And they also make people work less and stuff like that. So now all of that is dependent upon oil, and that was a decision made by the Central Socialist planners.
Reinvested a lot of that oil revenue in...
Also, the idea that like Venezuela didn't try to desperately diversify and promote agricultural production internally or domestically is also false. The difference, however, is that agricultural production and you know, grocery stores and most of that sector is still heavily privatized, owned by the wealthiest Venezuelans, who of course were impacted by the sanctions, but definitely owned by the private sector that absolutely despised the Venezuelan administration and are the leading advocates for Guaido and the leading advocates for installing a pro-Western puppet state instead.
Social programs. This decreased poverty by 25%, illiteracy by 49%.
Venezuelans got more cash. This does not mean they were better off. It's easy to just gather a bunch of money and throw it out there. And now suddenly...
Dude, what the fuck is he saying? What is the government supposed to do then? Like, I don't understand. He's saying that Chavez era reforms and social programs that greatly benefited people, okay, especially in like lesser developed parts of Venezuela, that were so broadly popular that even after he fucking died, there is still Chavistas out there who are supporting Maduro, who is not as good as Chavez, and definitely a much weaker leader, saying that that's actually bad. Why? You have a government that's doing right by its own citizens. Okay, you have citizens that are actually in support of those policies. But what? Like, you, Western white man, you don't consent? Is that what's going on? Soy Nick Mullen? Yeah.
People are above this poverty line. But what about your buying power? What about your debt? What about the sustainability? The fact that so many Venezuelans are in poverty today shows that was unsustainable. If you can have this vast reduction in poverty, but then it's...
Dude, I'm sick and tired of having these sorts of conversations with Western involvement also still hanging on the back of so many of these nations that have done the unthinkable and decided to nationalize or socialize, right? If socialism is unsustainable, then stop fucking, interfering with countries that want to democratically organize that way, and then let it fail on its own. But no, every single time a country decides to nationalize its sector or fucking socialize, America has to come in. Okay? America has to come in. The CIA has to come in and try to do coup d'etats. The American State Department and the American government has to fucking implement sanctions, not only on the state itself, but also literally on anyone that even dares to fucking trade with these countries. Just let them fucking do it then. Let them destroy themselves, okay? I'm just saying, stop meddling with it. Socialism's so bad, well then let them fucking fail on their own. So weird.
It's reversed in a couple of years, that's completely useless. Chavez brought Venezuelans from owing $1,400 each to owing $3,400 each. Crime increased. Venezuelans were 3 times more likely to be murdered after Chavez. What about those famed literacy programs? These were quote-unquote an expensive failure. At most, a small positive effect on literacy rate.
Wait, what? What do you mean at most a small positive effect on literacy rate? That's not even true. Wait, what? You can't just fucking say that. Literacy rate fucking skyrocketed. You didn't even address his fucking point. Holy shit. The sweaty socialist guy is talking about the successes of the Venezuelan government.
25% illiteracy by 49%.
Increasing literacy by what did he say? 49%? There's a reason why in the early stages of the Chavez regime, or Chavez government, sorry, I'm using imperialist propaganda talking points here. It was considered to be an incredible success. It was straight up considered to be an incredible fucking success by even Western capitalist nations. He's like, dude, it's not even half, dude. That's fucking marginal, dipshit. Fucking owned.
Failure. At most, a small positive effect on literacy rate.
The U.S. put 160 sanctions on them and surrounded the country with our military so we can steal anything they try and trade. So you see, Jordan, Venezuela didn't fail. They're being strangled to losers like you.
This whole idea of blaming sanctions for the failure is quite ridiculous. It is an absolute...
Wait. I know what he's going to say. Are you ready for this? The sanctions were technically targeted and only started around, what do you call it? Only started in 2017. So why was the Venezuelan economy crashing before then? Watch.
Absolute cop-out. Let's look at actual evidence from real researchers instead of Eddie's blog. The bulk of the deterioration in living standards came long before the sanctions were enacted in 2017. Eddie believes in time-traveling sanctions. They traveled back in time.
America famously never meddled in Venezuelan affairs and routinely blocked them participating in the global marketplace before 2017. Very famously so. Obviously, that never happened. The many attempts at sparking a coup d'etat also never really happened. That's totally made up. Not only that, but also the coup d'etat under Chavez, the original, what was it, a day-long coup? What the fuck? Oh my God, I'm getting hit with the heart attack done by the CIA. The original single-day fucking coup instituted by the Chamber of Commerce that was broadly unpopular and literally caused citizens to fucking storm the streets, that America backed, by the way, and immediately legitimized, by the way, and numerous other attempts similar to that under the Chavez regime. Okay, Chavez government. Damn it. All of that is just fucking nonsensical, right? The world's largest imperialist force working side by side with the Chamber of Commerce, the Venezuelan Chamber of Commerce, the wealthiest billionaires in Venezuela that control multiple fucking sectors. That, I'm certain, had nothing to do with Venezuela's state of disarray. Totally.
and caused the collapse before they even existed. Maximum amount of daily calories that can be purchased with a minimum wage in Venezuela. Dropping, and then sanctions. This is like me stuffing my face with 20 donuts a day. 60 days in, I'm gaining weight, and then I add in an extra Jolly Rancher per day. 60 days later, I see I've gained so much weight, and then I blame it on the Jolly Rancher. Obviously, the Jolly Rancher didn't help, but it wasn't the root problem. Again, GDP was on decline, oil production was plummeting. This was way before the economic sanctions. And there's so many other failures too. All of the blackouts and brownouts that came after they nationalized electricity. The loss of productivity in the nationalized steel industry. The absolute ruined agricultural industry once they nationalized it. The government even helped start over 250,000 worker-owned firms, and in just a few short years, even before the sanctions, there was less than a quarter of those left. They all failed because your policies don't work.
Yeah, totally. It doesn't work in Venezuela, but for some weird reason, it works in other countries that have been able to do such similar programs. Of course, when they're not literally constantly under attack by Western imperialist forces that shut them out from the global marketplace or stop them from even doing such a thing and trying to routinely implement coups d'etats. It's so weird. Listen, countries that have been able to implement social democratic policies in a democratic capacity, like in most of fucking Western Europe, were able to only do so because the threat of communism was far too great. And that's why, under the Marshall Plan, the United States and Western forces allowed them to continuously expand on their social safety nets and kept pumping money to them, okay? Because they didn't want it. They did not want socialist influence to corrupt these countries, okay? They themselves were also a part of the imperialist states in general. Why is it that those countries are able to have social democracies?
Hey,
okay, not
Hasan,
full-blown
thank you for
fucking
making the
socialism or anything
content
like
you do.
that.
It has
But
been a
why
big
can't fucking
influence for
Venezuela
me.
have that?
I used to be a borderline Republican.
There has to be a
only few
difference,
years
right?
ago.
So either that difference is an intrinsic factor, i.e., you're saying that Venezuelans are fucking brown and unable to, implement any sort of like centralized control appropriately, whereas white people in Europe are able to, or it's external factors, which is, of course, Western imperialism and being effectively shut out from the global marketplace and, numerous coup d'etat attempts to subvert and thwart democracy and democratic processes in the country for simply the crime of having autonomy over its own natural resources, dude. Its own natural fucking resources. That's how disgusting and privileged and entitled we are, okay? That we're just like, oh, dude, what? You want to use your own oil production to help your own people? Well, Prax Ben says, no, thank you. We're not going to let you do that.